Welcome back, everyone, to Little Shop of Nerds, the little YouTube channel about everything nerd related. Welcome back. I'm Mike.
I'm Julia.
All right, what's today's hint, Jules?
So today's hint is crown.
Today we're going to be talking about the 2001 Disney movie, The Princess Diary, starring Anne Hathaway and Julia Roberts.
No, Julie Andrews.
Oops. Sorry, I'm just.
He's over here distracted by my cat, Noelle. Noelle has decided to grace us with her presence again. So.
Well, you said we're talking about royalty.
Well, fun fact, everybody: lactating cats are called queens. That's a fact. So so we're talking about the 2001 movie, like Mike said, The Princess Diaries. We were going to do Royal Engagement as well, but we have decided to go ahead and do that at a later date just because both movies are like literally 2 hours long. And this video would probably end up being even longer if we did two 2-hour movies.
And also, we wanted to play Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah, we both got Assassin's Creed Shadows, and we've both been playing it. So
possible video in the future.
Yeah. So this is actually one of my favorite Disney movies, live action Disney movies, I should say. It does have Mandy Moore in it, which if y'all don't know who she is a singer. She was really popular back in like the early 2000s. She mostly acts now, so she did do the voice for Rapunzel and Tangled. Then she was in some sort of TV show called This Is Us or something like that. I don't know. I don't really watch TV. I don't even have cable. We use streaming services.
Well, to me, I think cable is outdated. For some reason, I'm surprised how cable and satellite's still going nowadays, where it's outdated nowadays. Everyone streams.
I mean, I think mostly it's probably the old people who don't want to deal with streaming, or my mom who probably doesn't want to deal with streaming.
My dad.
So it's probably people who don't want to deal with streaming, and probably the older people, boomer generation maybe, who doesn't want to deal with streaming. But to each their own. So she's also in this movie, and she plays. Oh, actually,
we'll get to that.
So it starts off with. You see San Francisco, and you see these two police cruisers, or motorcycle police cruisers, escorting this limousine with these flags on it down the street. And then it goes past this old firehouse that Mia's mother had bought and refurbished into a home. It's also an art studio because her mother's an artist. And you see Mia sitting up in what they call her tower, just, kind of looking out and freaking out because it's the day of her debate.
Yes, and how they did with Anne Hathaway, they frizzed up her hair, bleached her eyebrows, and wear nerd glasses, pretty much.
I'm wondering if her hair was just a wig.
I think it was a wig.
So just think of, if you've all read Harry Potter, just think of Hermione's hair. Because Hermione's hair was supposed to be frizzy and all that, and they just did not do that. So, she goes downstairs, get ready to leave. She has this neighbor called Mr. Robitussin. Sounds like the cough syrup. He's like we learn later he's a soap opera writer.
Yes.
But she leaves on her scooter,
and she meets up with her dorky friend Lily.
Which I'm gonna get into this later, but Lily is one of the worst friends ever.
Pretty much, and Lily is pretty much your typical, how can I say it?
She's got very progressive ideas.
And
I think she's vegan, and she wants to support the environment and all that.
Pretty much a girl, I wouldn't say hippie girl, just an activist woman.
Yeah, we'll go with activist. So
Because if I say something else, I might get us in trouble.
yeah, she has very liberal views. Let's put it that way.
Yes, and I think Mia's the same way, but it's
Mia's is more toned down though. If I don't really think that Mia has those types of views because she just seems to just go with the flow with whatever Lily says.
well, she's trying to be invisible because she doesn't want to stand out, which I get.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was the same way.
Okay, when we get to her school, we see pretty much everyone doing their thing, Mandy Moore being the popular girl,
And the mean girl.
pretty much, with her friends, her two Goonies that have the same,
Yeah.
not the same name, but their names
So-
rhyme.
Okay, so Mandy Moore's character's name is Lana. So her other friends' names are Lana, Fontana, and Hannah, I think, or
Whatever,
something like that.
whatever.
I'll look it up real quick.
I'll keep going.
Yeah.
She has a boyfriend named Josh. If he looks familiar to you, now this is like your late 90s, early 2000s Disney Channel fans or whatever. There was a show called So Weird. It was pretty much about the paranormal. Sometimes it ended like, did it really happen or is it just coincidence? Just look it up. It's on Disney Plus. He plays a guy named Q, but in this he's playing the typical jock or hottie, whatever, that Mia has a crush on. And he's just being a weirdo. Then you have the principal, played by Sandra Oh, wasn't paying attention to the one guy, but this guy. But she says hi to Lily, and she sees Mia, and she's like, Lily's friend. I'm like, wow, what?
Yeah, I cannot seem to find out what. I know one girl's name is Fontana. We have Lana, Fontana, and somebody else.
Anna? Maybe Anna? Who knows?
Maybe I cannot for some reason I can't find it, but you keep going. I'll try to figure it out.
Well, she's in class. They're debating on, on school uniforms, whatever. And Josh was against the uniforms. Mia is for it. And let's just say she got so nervous she was going to throw up, and she ran away, which that'll tie into the movie later. She works at a gym for climbing rocks, pretty much a rock climbing gym.
Yeah, so she does like to. She basically likes to. She says this later. But she likes to rock climb, yoga, and horseback ride.
Yeah, I try a little bit of yoga. It's not that bad.
I've done some yoga too. I'm planning on getting back into it.
Hurts like hell, though. I tell you
Yeah.
that. But besides that, yes, her mom comes. They are climbing the wall. They're saying her grandmother's coming, and it's her father's mother. So she comes and asks her to meet her for tea and talk. Mia doesn't want to do it, but she was like, fine, I'll do it, right? So, after that, they cut to a music room where you see the actual guy that she likes, but friend zones him. And ladies, if you do this...
Are you talking about Michael?
Yes.
No, okay. Michael likes her,
Okay.
but she doesn't like him because she likes Josh.
Okay.
But Michael's in love with her. He just has never said anything.
Okay, either way. She pretty much puts him in the friend zone through the whole entire movie, close to the end, okay?
It's because she didn't know that he liked her.
Okay, well, now people knows how it feels when you friend zone someone.
I still can't find her friends' names.
That-
So, anyways,
Doesn't fucking matter?
we'll just call them, her bitchy friends.
The non-plastics, whatever.
Yeah, but so are you talking about when they're in music class?
Yes.
Okay, so he's just kind of staring at her because Michael has a thing for her, but she's not really interested in him. And I think it might just be because she's never really, like, she probably just sees him as her best friend's brother and has never really thought of him that way. But
pretty much.
anyways, we find out that Mia's grandmother wants to meet with her. Did you say that already?
Already did.
Okay.
I'm already soon.
And so she goes to the Geneva consulate to meet her grandmother. I think this is the first time that she's ever met her grandmother in 15 years.
I think this is the first time she has ever meeting her.
That's what I'm saying. The first time in 15 years. So she starts walking across the grass, and this gives me flashback at work because we have a system at work that if you're walking in the park or in the driveway where trucks go through, it will yell at you to, get out of the way.
Oh yeah, it does. I'll tell you, you are getting too close to the property. Back off, or we're going to call the police.
It's not quite like that,
but either way, we should get one. We should get one that has different languages, like they did.
Yeah. So she starts walking across the grass, and it yells at her to get off the grass in different languages, and she's like hops off, and she's just like looking around, like, what? So then she goes inside. She gets searched. She tells the security guard, that dude, she's like, hey, don't crush my soy nuts. He's like, your soy nuts are safe. So then he leaves the butler. Excuse me. The butler leaves her over to a couch. She sits down, and she just kind of drops her bag on the floor, and the butler just hops over her bag and just walks off. And then this girl, or this woman named Charlotte, shows up. She's like the the queen's assistant,
and she's pretty much in the first and second of the movie, first movie and second movie.
Yeah, you'll see her a lot. And then here comes Julie Andrews as Queen Clarice, and she introduces herself, and they're talking, and you can just see Julie Andrews just looking at her like, what's going on here? So she gives her, she's like, well, your mom said you wanted to talk to me something about, so shoot. And she's like, oh, yeah, before you shoot. So she's very unaccustomed with slang words because, she's
pretty
royal.
Oh, well, that's one thing that royals need to learn. Slang 101.
Mm-hmm. So she gives her this necklace, and she just completely, drops the thing that the necklace was in, and then she tries to put the necklace on, around her hair and can't get it. And then she's like, well, I have something to tell you, it's going to change your life. And she's like, well, I've already had braces. And she's like, oh, no, this is bigger than orthodontia. So then they go out. They're having tea in the garden. Orthodontia.
Don't you mean orthodontia?
No, she said orthodontia.
That's...
Anyways, so they're out there, in the garden to have tea. She's just making a big racket, Mia is. And then that's when Clarice is like, hey, do you know, she gives off her father's name, and Mia's like, no. And she's like, well, that's the king of Genovia. And she's like,
well, Prince.
Oh, yeah, Prince. She's like, oh, okay. She's like, what about him? And she's like, well, he was your father. And she's like, no, because if he was my father, then I'm... And then she's like, yes. Then she tells her, yeah, you're a princess. Mia freaks out because Mia just wants to be invisible.
Well, can you blame her? Sometimes she's pretty much like an introvert if you look at it.
Yeah. And so she runs away. She goes home. She gets into a little fight with her mom about it. She's like, you didn't think to tell me, that my father was a royal. She was like, she basically said that they had gotten married. And then they ended up getting a divorce because he was going, he had to become king because he knew that his father or his brother was going to abdicate to the throne. And she was like, we got a divorce, so he could go do that and he could find somebody that he could marry and have kids with, and I'd be free, to raise you. And, she's like, I was scared. And, Mia does eventually she does eventually, forgive her mom for not telling her. Um,
But then,
her mom also does start dating her English or her debate teacher, but I can't remember when that actually happened. But her mom does start dating her debate teacher. I just want to get that out of the way now.
either way, the next day, her grandmother shows up. Her mom and her grandmother are just talking like nothing has happened, and showing some pictures, whatever. Then Mia's kind of has like a little, I wouldn't say an episode, just pretty much the queen just tells her, what you need to do and stuff, and they decide to work out a compromise. Just do some training. If you don't want to do it, then we stop. Then you don't have to be the princess, and you can just
she had to do princess. They called it princess lessons until the Genovia Grand Ball, where Mia would make her decision on whether or not she was going to be princess of Genovia, or if she just didn't want to. And the queen was like, okay, I accept that. Mia's like, okay. Excuse me. So this gave them a chance to kind of like bond and get to know each other. So then she starts going to the Geneva consulate like every day, and she starts learning, how to walk, how to sit, how to talk like a princess, how to act like a princess, how to dance.
the wave.
There is actually a scene where Joe, which is played by Hector Elizondo, which he was in Pretty Woman.
Which you might know him as the concierge. Besides that, he was also in The Princess Diaries, but he was also on a show called Last Man Standing with Tim Allen.
Yeah, so he is actually Mia. So before we get more into the princess lessons, he was actually chosen to be Mia's bodyguard and to drive her around and everything. So she goes and she picks up, Lily at the at her house, and she's like, what's going on? And they're just, she's just like, this is my grandmother just wants me to use it and stuff like that. So this is where so then they go off, they go to school, they have a soccer lesson. I think that's where she told the print or her gym teacher, I'm like to yoga. I like to do yoga. I like to rock climb. I like to horseback ride. And then she sends Josh over, and Josh is just
Josh.
Just being Josh, and she's just kind of like starstruck because she's got a crush on him. So then they're going home, and this is where Lily turns out to be one of the worst friends ever. So Mia's father had passed away like 2 months before the movie takes place.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about how Lily's talking about how she needs an attitude adjustment. Herself needs an attitude
Which she does.
She does, because she's horrible. And, they're just going home, and she's like, hey, it's been, she's like, she said something, and she's like, and Lily's like, hey, I thought you were getting over that. It's been 2 months. And she's like, well, he was my dad.
Yeah, because come on, she never knew him, and
I'm going to assume that they may have talked on the phone, because he did send her gifts every year for her birthday. So I am assuming that he probably had some form of contact with her, but they may just have never seen each other, or if they did see each other, it was very rare. They never actually go into that, but that's what my thoughts are, is that they did have some form of contact. So she goes over to, she has a Mustang that her mom bought. She traded 2 paintings for a 1960-something Mustang.
And she, in typical classic Mustang car, it's broke.
Yeah, so she goes over. She goes to the garage where it's at, because her brother, Lily's brother, he's in a band, and they practice in the garage in return for Michael helping Doc Motors fix the car. So she goes over, and they're singing.
Pretty good singer, by the way.
Yeah, and she goes over to look at her car. Michael comes over, and he's like, hey, look at this. And she's like, hey, this is pretty cool. And then Doc comes out, and she's like, so, what's the diagnosis on my baby? Because she calls her baby, and it's $400 to get fixed. Okay, $400 really is. She's like, that's a lot of money, and it.
Oh, don't forget, if it's a classic car and they have to use classic parts, it's going to be a lot.
I mean, $400 though really isn't that much, considering that I've put over $1,000 into my car to get my car fixed. But I mean, to a 15-year-old, $400 is a lot of money. Believe me, I remember thinking, man, $400, that's a lot of money. I remember thinking that when I watched it.
Well,
but when I first watched it, but she's like, I'll see what I can do, and Michael's like, I'll do some,
maintenance on him, and he's pretty much trying to be a little. You can tell he's a little. I wouldn't say desperate, a little bit of a simp, and even his boss is like, I'll do the maintenance for you for free, and he's like,
I'll do some labor for free,
and he's like,
what are you, sweet on her?
And he's like, shut up, and he's like,
no, it's my sister's best friend, and he's like, yeah, what's the hardest place to be between friend and friendlier?
Friend and friendlier, and I'm like, true, because like I agree with that, and it's like. Now, some, like, say the friends can be okay with it, but there's times it's kind of hard to do that. Like, because, like, in my opinion, it's like, if you have a friend and if you like that, it's kind of hard. Because, they might just see you as another brother or whatever.
Yeah, so a good example of this is Harry Potter, when Harry ended up dating Ginny Weasley, his best friend's sister. And he basically, they didn't have this in the movie, but it was in the book, where Harry kissed Ginny in front of everybody after a Quidditch match, okay?
Yeah.
And then he looked over at Ron, and Ron just kind of like nodded and gave him his approval that I'd rather it be you than anybody else, basically. So then we get into the princess lessons.
Yes, and before they're doing their whole lessons, doing the wave, doing everything, and pretty much, what was it, before the lessons or something, Mia had to change in the car because she didn't.
She wasn't allowed to wear she had to wear pantyhose.
And what was it?
Or stockings, it was what it was.
Joe says it, like, she's trying to get on the car and they're going up every hill in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, I think makes a joke or something about saying how they sound like they're dangerous to put on.
Yeah. And then when he
agree.
When he gave her the shoes, the pumps to wear, he was like, the seller asked me if I wanted to wear them out of the shop.
Yep, that's funny.
And so, so she gets them on and she goes. She does, she starts doing the princess lessons. There is a scene where she is learning how to dance, and she like rams into Joe on an accident. And then after she leaves, he goes up to the queen and he is like, you've been wearing black for too long, because, her husband died the year before, and then her son just died, 2 months ago. And so she's been wearing black, I think, that whole entire time, because it is customary, I think, in the royal family, and it was like this back in the Victorian age too, where you would have to wear black clothes for a long time after the death of a loved one, like whether it was your husband or your daughter or your brother or whatever. Like, you just had to wear black for a long time. So we do see that in Gone with the Wind, where Scarlett was wearing black after her second husband was killed, and then Rhett's like, yeah, we're not doing this. And then, they end up getting together. But we'll do a video on Gone with the Wind later.
Yeah, and pretty much after the whole thing, they do the make.
Well, they were dancing, and you can definitely tell that Joe has a thing for Clarice. And I felt a little awkward watching them dance.
Oh, come on.
Because it was, I don't want to say sensual, but it was pretty, it's kind of steamy.
Well, don't forget, if Genovia is between France and Spain, so you gotta think. Sometimes, how can I say it? What's the right word for? Is it Hispanic or Latina? Is it Latina? Whatever. Try and find the
we'll just go with, it was kind of like Latin type dancing.
Let's just say Latin type dancing looks a little sexual. Have you ever seen the tango?
Yeah.
Pretty sexual.
Yeah, so they did that, and then the next day, she was late, and she runs into this hairdresser named Paulo.
Which you might know him from other movies, but you might know him from 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh yeah, was that her father? Oh, I kept wondering because I was like looking at him. I was like, why does he look familiar?
He played the dad in 10 Things I Hate About You. He played the doctor who kept saying, "No boys," because he's afraid his daughters would get pregnant.
Yeah, so he starts making over Mia, making her more princess-like, I guess.
Pretty much they give her a glam up.
Yeah, and so he starts brushing her hair. Well, her hair is thick and frizzy, so his hairbrush breaks in her hair. And then he's like, "Do you wear contact lenses?" And she's like, "Well, I have them, but I don't really like to wear them." He's like, he breaks her glasses, says, "Well, you do now." And she's like, "You broke my glasses."
You
broke my brush. And then they start...
Fair trade.
Yeah, so then you see them plucking her eyebrows. You see them doing stuff on her legs and on her feet, on her hands. And they put some makeup on her. And then when the queen comes back, they have 2 photos of her in front of her face. And he goes, "Only Paulo could take this and give you." And then the 2 women with him said, "A princess." And then they split apart, and there's Mia in her new look. And the queen is like, better. Much better.
Yes, and to the next scene where she's going to school in the limousine with her new look. And guess who did not approve?
Lily. This is another scene where Lily is like the shittiest friend ever. Because Mia, she opens... Well, first it was Michael that sees her. And he's all just like, "Oh." And she's like, "Does it look bad?" And he doesn't say anything. And then Lily shows up, and then she goes, "Does this look bad?" And she goes, Lily says, "Oi, who destroyed you?" And she's just like, "What?" And then they get into the car, and
she's pretty much going off the rails because she doesn't... Like I said, she's really activist in certain ways, and I'm glad that people are nowadays, but when you're our age, it's like, why bother?
Yeah, so she just went completely... She was just going off on Mia to the point where Mia was tearing up. And Joe was noticing, and she went off about one of the bags that Mia had, which is probably the bag her grandmother got her. And she's like, she's like, "This bag, you have one of these bags?" And she's just like, the whole entire car ride, she was just going off, and it ends with her saying, "Face it, Mia, you sold out." And then they get out of the car. Joe got out with her, and he goes, "Was it just my imagination, or was my mirror fogging up, or was someone tearing back there?" And she says, "I'm fine." He goes, "Well, nobody can make you feel inferior to yourself," or something like that. And she was like, Eleanor Roosevelt said that. And he's like, "Yeah." And so then...
Yeah, and she... Pretty much Lily's still going off, and she finally says, "Shut up!"
Yeah, she says, "Just because your hair..." Or, "Lily, stop it, please." And then, "Just because your hair sucks, get off mine." And Michael's like, "Oh, yeah, thank you." And then he walks off, and then Lily's like, "What did you say to me?" And then Mia ends up revealing that she's a princess.
And now, static.
Yeah, and then they made up,
too fast, but...
It was a little fast, yeah. So they go to school. Everybody see Mia's new hair because she was trying to cover it up with a hat, but she had to take it off. And then people are like, oh, what's going on here? And then,
Pretty much the mean girls pretty much make fun of her because she's, to me, in my opinion, you can still be a nerd and still look your best. Hell, you'd be surprised. Hell, look at Henry Cavill. That dude's like a fucking nerd and he's ripped.
yeah. So, she continues to go to princess lessons. And then she goes to school one morning with Lily, and Lana yells out, or they see like a bunch of reporters there, and she was like, "Oh, no!" Before that, her and Michael had made a date to work on her car because her parts came in. He's like, "Yeah, my band is rehearsing new things, and your parts came in." She's like, "Oh, was this like a date?" He goes, "Could be," and pizza. They're around pizza and stuff like that. And then they go to the school and they see reporters. Mia's like, "Hey, who you all waiting for?" And then Lana is like, "Oh, that's her. That's Mia Thermopolis." And it's like, "We're waiting for you, princess." And then they start taking her pictures. She's freaking out because she doesn't know how to handle
all the publicity. They don't know how her secret. She even asked Lily, and she's like, "I didn't say shit." And somehow they take her to the principal office. Pretty much, the debate teacher helps her, and the pretty much the teacher principal saying the queen's coming.
Yeah.
And her mom's there too, and
yeah. So they get her. They show up and they find out that Paula was the one that
though he signed a DC was it
NDA,
and yet didn't honor it, and yet, in my opinion, I'm like,
a confidentiality agreement is what he had to have signed.
I would never sign those. In my opinion, I'm just saying, even if it's like a job that saying you need to, I'm like, I'm not signing it.
Well, I mean, for me it depends on what it is, because I mean, if it's something like that, then yeah, there probably should be something that should be signed, because that could have put me at risk.
Yeah, okay. If it was like the Royal Imposition, yes. But I'm talking about like saying like, how can I say this? A certain company that we know treat their security guards and their other workers like shit, and they have to sign pretty much those.
Yeah, an NDA is from what we've heard from some of our coworkers.
And truth be told, there are some who didn't sign it, some that did. Now, if it's like that company, I'm not signing it. Because I know who they are.
We're not going to reveal that information.
Why bother? Like, people barely watches us.
Yeah, I know, but still.
We can't say anything because we get in trouble. So,
yeah. So anyways, she's, they said that she can stop being a princess. Like, they're like, you can stop this. We can put an end to it right now. And she's like, she wanted to keep going.
Yeah, she just wanted to get through it, and pretty much she'll decide right away.
Yeah, she's like, I'll think about it and get back to you shortly. So, cut to her being on top of the roof, and Lily has this cable TV show that she does every Saturday, and she's like, "Hey, can you come on my cable show?" And she's like, "Yeah, I can do it now that her secret's out." And so they're like walking up and down these bleachers together, these metal bleachers, and there's a part where Mia falls. That was actually not scripted. That actually really happened. that was actually her actually falling, so it wasn't scripted or anything. It wasn't in the script, and she just kept going, and and then it cuts to her going to this state dinner. It's her first real public royal thing that she has to do as a princess. And I really like her dress in that scene. Like, that dress is I really liked that one.
Sure, it's fabulous.
It's pretty. It's a really pretty blue color, and it fits Anne Hathaway wonderfully.
Hey, It does. Like I said, I'm not a fashion guy. To me, I'm lucky if something matches, and I'm good.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I mean, today I'm wearing a band tee since
Yeah.
I play bass for Patient 67. If y'all like metal music, go check them out on Spotify or whatever. But anyways, I digress. So she just spends like the whole night just making a fool of herself. Like
Yes.
she sets some guy's arm on fire. She ate her ice cream too fast, and then she got a brain freeze, which then the prime minister and the prime minister's wife also decided that they were going to do the same thing. So then they're over there and they're acting like monkeys. We get the first look at Baron and Baroness von Token or Trocken or something like that. They're the ones that will take over Genovia if Mia decides that she doesn't want to be princess.
Hence, which they should have been the main villains in the second film.
His wife looks
Ugly.
super ugly. So, anyways, then she she breaks a glass on accident trying to like get everybody's attention for the prime minister. And then it ends with her using her knife and fork for grapes for some reason.
Seriously, it's just.
Yeah, and
Or take it off the freaking stem.
Yeah, and she dropped one. She got down on the floor. A guy, I think he was upset with his wife because I think she kept nagging him.
Pretty much, yeah.
And he goes, "I'm out of here." And he trips over her, and a lot of things happen. And then everybody starts laughing at Mia.
Yeah, and everyone, and you think her grandmother thinks she's mad, but she's not. She starts to laugh, and then it cuts to her telling Mia, "It's like I was nervous too my first time. I did something crazy."
Yeah, she tripped into a suit of armor, and the spear went right through the suckling pig.
Pretty much, and they decide, she decided, hey, let's just take a day off and go have fun around San Francisco, and they pretty much did. And she drove in her Mustang. They went to the board. I think it was some kind of boardwalk. I don't know what it was.
Some sort of like arcade that's and not like the normal arcades where you go in. There's like a bunch of like video games. It was like just like
old time arcade games. Like there's one where they played. It's like a arm wrestling machine. Where it is you try to arm wrestle this machine, pretty much.
Yeah, and they got their pictures taken, with a one of those photo booths.
Oh, now I feel old.
And I mean, they still have those around because when my friend Janae and I went down to Beaver Creek to hang out back in November, we got our pictures taken in a photo booth.
Yeah.
So they're still around. They have them at the zoo too.
Yeah,
Charlie and I have gotten our pictures taken in them.
Yeah, but people hardly use them nowadays since they got their phones.
Yeah, but it's always fun to do something like that, though.
Yeah, either way, they did their thing and they're going back and first the queen tries a corn dog for the first time. I'm like, and she says it's good. I'm like, yeah, try some good American food once in a while. Yeah.
So then Mia's car breaks down on the way back, goes down a hill, and it hits into a trolley. And then there's a big spectacle where the police are there, and
they pretty much knighted her. Just knighted them.
Yeah, the queen knighted the officer and the trolley worker dude.
Driver, yeah.
Because they were going to take Mia downtown because the queen, he's like, you're driving without a license. And you're driving with a driver whose license expired 45 years ago. And she's like, licenses don't expire in Genovia. Well, not for the queen. She's like, don't I have diplomatic immunity? He's like, well, you do, but we have to take her downtown.
Well, in my opinion, she says she was 16, and I'm like, isn't that the age of a license?
Yeah, well, I don't even think she has her permit yet. Because she's actually 15. Because this is like 2 weeks before she turns 16.
Well, either way, either way, she knights them, and pretty much they go on their merry way. Then the next day, this happens. Josh, who didn't never give her the time of day, invited her to the beach because he broke up with Mandy Moore's character.
Yeah, Lana. He broke up with Lana because she was trying to pretend like she was best friends with Mia, trying to get her 15 minutes of fame. But yeah, because they had this thing called the Baker Beach Party that the school goes to or hosts or something. Because they go to a private school that's probably like super expensive to pay for. Because they wear uniforms and everything like that.
Truth be told, it's true. They do wear private schools do wear uniforms.
Mike would know all about that.
Don't waste your money going there. Well, at least they were more lenient on stuff. I went to a Christian private school, so get right with God. Or we had some problems. Here's a come to Jesus meeting, and I'm like, and if you want to know what a come to Jesus meeting is, it's pretty much a group that you need to rat out whoever done it. And one thing you need to know, we did not rat out people.
Yeah, so,
we just rat out each other. We just rat us out. Like, say, I just ratted myself out.
Yeah, so she ends up bailing on Michael and doesn't even call Lily to tell her that she couldn't go. Because, like, even though she wanted to be invisible, I also think she wanted to be, with the popular kids too.
Just a little.
Which, I can kind of understand that because there was a time when I was in high school where I wanted to be popular too. Just because I got bullied a lot. So I can kind of understand, like, you just get so sick of bullying that you just wonder what it would be like to have friends, or be friends with somebody like that.
Well, when I was in private school, I was already being laughed at, but there was times I had to hide who I was, but also go along with the crowd.
Yeah.
And I didn't like, and when I'm an adult, I noticed I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to carry that sin with me.
Yeah. So, she ends up going, as she's getting ready, she's standing in front of, okay, so the relationship that she has with her mom is a very close relationship because some stuff that she talked about with her mom is stuff that I probably wouldn't even talk about with my mom. And so she was talking about how, she's, I'm going to wear my blue suit. And she's like, is Joe taking you? She's like, no, I'm going to take the bus with the other students. And she was like,
which I think she should have taken him.
Yeah, and then she's like, I might have my first real kiss. And she's like, oh, with who? And she's like, Josh Bryant. And she's like, isn't that Backstreet Boy clone who is always mean to you? And she's like, okay, Mom, he's not a Backstreet Boy clone. And
I'm like, what's wrong with Backstreet Boys? And then she said that, I was like, what's wrong with the Backstreet Boys?
And then she's like, but I thought that he was never nice to you. And she's like, well, he is now. And then she's talking about, like, having her first foot-popping kiss, which her mom's like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, when a girl gets kissed, her foot just kind of pops. And
her mom pretty much laughs at her for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, duh. And I'm like, but also that should have been like the first red flag. Like he hated you and now he likes you. That should have been a red flag.
But I mean, at 15, you don't really think about something like that. You're just like, oh, my crush possibly likes me back. And, it's not always like that.
But either way, she pretty much blows off the two people she was going to be with. And she tells Mike she wasn't going to be there with him. And he kind of...
Yeah, when she told him that, she was going to the beach party with Josh, she was like, oh, and she's like, can we do it next week? And he's like, oh, yeah. And she's like, thank you. And you could tell that he looks really upset. So she gets to the party, or the beach party. Lana and her friends do like this. She said that she did this on purpose, but she was singing a song called Stupid Cupid. And there's a part where she kind of did this this squeak. She's like, stupid Cupid, like that. And she says she did that on purpose because she was supposed to be playing a mean mean popular girl.
Yeah.
So she says she did that on purpose. And you see Mia out on the yacht with Josh. They go back to, land, and they're talking, and then they're dancing, and then the paparazzi show up again.
Yeah, and they chase him into a shack, and they're
Like a storage shack.
and Mia wanted to kiss him, but it wasn't romantic enough, which I agree. Nothing's romantic about Shaq, unless you want to while playing Love Shack.
Fuck Mike. But her foot got caught in a netting, so she said that it wasn't romantic. He's like, oh yeah, you're right. And then he's like, hey, how about after we wait, or while we wait, how about you get, or how about a foot massage? She's like, she thought that he was talking about giving her a foot massage, and she's like, oh my god, thank you. He's like, oh no, I meant you give me one.
Yeah, see, that's kind of fucked up. To me, it's a two-way street. You could have just like you both could have give yourself a foot massage.
Yeah, like she could be working on one foot, and he could have been working on her other foot, and then they just switch foots, and it would have worked. And
Back rub also does pretty well too.
yeah, so then they think that the paparazzi left. So then they leave. Well, they get ambushed, and they're like, "Hey, give her a smooch," and he kisses her, and she takes off her flip flop and she smacks him in the head, and then she's like smacking the people to get them to move.
She goes to a changing tent.
Yeah, because Lana and her friends are there with her clothes.
And they did the worst thing ever by they get the paparazzi there and they flip the tent over and she wasn't ready and
yeah, Mia was naked.
I wanted to say that's not cool.
Yeah, so Mia screamed and she had like her it's the thing, it's what you wear like when you're at the beach and you tie it around your waist, kind of like some sort of like a
robe almost.
Not kind of a robe. It's I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Wraps around your waist.
Either way, she's trying to cover herself, and this is one thing I'm glad that the gym teacher was there, and I think her debate teacher was there. They helped her.
No, it was just her gym teacher.
Well, the gym teacher helped her. They got her away, and the next day.
Oh no! Don't forget that night she was sitting with her mom in her robe, and her mom was holding her as she was crying.
Yeah, and
then she's not upset about being exposed. She was upset because her foot didn't pop when Josh kissed her. I'm like, and you could tell that her mom just kind of like laughed. So then the next day.
Well, yeah, but also she was the next day. Let's just say the Queen's not too happy about it, and Mia understands, and she says she was going to quit right there, and then she looks at Joe. He's like, "What? You're saying I was too harsh on her?" I'm like, "Well, she took it. She took your criticism good, like a princess should. But as a grandmother, you were too hard." And I had to say, I agree with him. I'm like, how many royal or, God forbid, presidential controversies happen? We had a president who says, "I did not have sexual relationship with that woman."
And then he did.
But he did.
He admitted it later, much later.
$5, I bet you there was some prince who was out there getting shit faced, and there was a paparazzi.
Well, I mean, Prince Harry used to be like that. Like he used to go out and he would get like he was a wild child when he was growing up.
Hell, we don't know what Queen Elizabeth did. You never know. She could have a pint or two.
Oh, well, I mean, she probably did, but we just don't know about it because she probably did it in the castle,
or she hid it.
But definitely Prince Harry was definitely he was definitely the wild child, like as he started to grow up. But anyways, so she's like, "Do you think that she can do it?" Like Clarice says that to Joe, and he's like, "Oh, I have no doubt." And she was like, "Yeah, I thought so too." So then you hear Backstreet Boys song play, which is actually one of my favorite songs.
Which one was it?
It's called What makes you different makes you beautiful. It's when she's going to school. Okay,
That's good.
I'm not the best singer, so ignore that, guys.
I'm always going to like Backstreet's Back. I don't know.
I mean, that's classic, but
Yeah.
I was a big BSB fan back in the day, but
Then again, Larger Than Life is pretty dope too.
yeah. So
Okay, ADHD moment over.
yeah, so she is getting made fun of at school for what happened. They were calling her Princess Pucker Up, and stuff like that. She goes up to talk to Lily, and Lily's just like upset because she got left for you, and you see it. She got left for an hour with this guy named Jeremiah Hart, who has a crush on Lily.
And Lily should really consider, like, he at least with Jeremiah, he was being nice to her.
Yeah, so I think like they never explicitly state that they were dating. Like she did end up like
Inviting him.
going out with him, but before that she knew that he had a crush on her because she's like, a way to a girl's heart is not by pulling money out of her ear or something like that. Because he does magic tricks. So
I don't know. Pretty much that's how it is nowadays. There's some girls pretty much is to a girl's heart. Just pull $100 out of her ear. She'll be like, love you forever.
I mean, yeah.
Not all of them, but not all of them. 5 times out of 10 will happen.
I mean, I would be okay with having $100 pulled out of my ear.
Hell, I'll take $100 now.
So, they're talking, and she's like, they're arguing, and Mia's like, well, you didn't, keep it, how dorky you thought, or keep it a secret how dorky you thought my being a princess was, so congratulations, you got your wish. I'm not going to be a princess. And she's like, you're not? And Mia's like, no. And she's like, Lily's like, but I want you to be.
And I think it was telling her is like, people like us, we are never going to be heard. But once you're in that seat, they'll want to hear you.
Yeah, once you have a position where you can, just you can do what you need to do, or you can get, like, okay, so like with Lily's activist stuff, like having Mia in a position of power where she can do something about it. She's like, that's basically what Lily was wanting, was, hey, you're in a position where you can do something. You can affect change. She's like, I can't do it because I'm just a 15-year-old girl, but you can. And so she does invite Lily to the ball. And she goes along, they make up. And then you see Michael comes to Mia's house to drop off her Mustang because it got fixed. They're kind of like talking over each other. And Mia gives him the check for her car. And then she asks him to be her date to the ball. And he's like, well, Josh would look better in the tux. So she's like, oh, but I kind of just wanted you to be there. And he basically just turned her down.
And can you blame the guy, though?
Yeah. I mean, he was hurt. You could definitely tell he was hurt.
Yeah, and before anyone says when it's guys don't get hurt that much, they do. We just don't. We don't show it. If you don't hear us talking or anything, that means you hurt us real bad. Mm-hmm. It's not like, after a day two we're done. Like women, not all women, just one of those women. Mm-hmm. No, we stick it.
Yeah. So she there was a scene, I think, before that where she was playing softball, and people were kind of making fun of her because she couldn't hit the ball.
And Josh got hit in the nuts.
Yeah, Josh was making fun of her, and then she hit the ball and hit him in the nuts, and then she made it to first place. Oh, and she coned Lana, which Lana was making fun of Mia, and then she was making fun of Jeremiah's sweater, and then his hair.
Looks like a dad sweater.
Yeah, and then Mia's like, "Oh, Lana, that's such a cute uniform." He's talking about her cheerleading uniform, and she's like, "I bet it goes great with anything." And she goes, "Oh, yes, it does." And then Mia had an ice cream cone, and she just rammed it into her chest and just started spreading the ice cream all over it. And everybody's sitting there just watching her, and she's like, she's like, "Mia, you're such a freak." And she's like, "Yeah, I am." She goes, "But someday I might grow out of that, but you will never stop being a jerk." And then everybody started chanting, "Lana got coned, Lana got coned." And then, like, she's like, "Miss Gupta," which was the vice principal, she's like, "Miss Gupta, did you see what she did to me?" And there was, like, 3 other teachers sitting there. She's like, "Oh, no, I did." She's like, "Send it out for dry cleaning."
Yeah, and what was it? They're at the Mia's at her house, and her grandmother's there, and pretty much having their last moment.
Yeah, she gives her a book from from her father.
Which was a royal diary.
Yeah, and she's like, "My birthday's not for 2 weeks," so she's like, "Well, I'm leaving for Genovia the day after tomorrow." She's like, "Oh, okay." So, she's gonna be leaving pretty soon, and then she's like, "I need you to give a speech at, to abdicate, formally. I need you to give a speech." And Mia's like, "Oh." She's like, "Don't you think you should do it?" Because, Mia's not good at speaking in front of people. Because remember, at the beginning of the movie, she threw up. And
she said she's going to be with her mom.
Yeah, she said her mom is going to drop her off.
And here's what happens.
So she told, because Clarice is like, "Hey, I'll have Joe pick you up." She's like, "No." She's like, "Mom's going to drive me." She's like, "Okay, so I'll see you there." And she's like, "Yeah." Well, she had told her mother that Joe was going to pick her up. So she decided that she was going to run away. So the pictures that you see, which I didn't know this until I was trying to find Lana's friends' names. Her father, when we actually see him, was actually really Anne Hathaway's father.
Nice.
But the voice was not her father. The voice was somebody else.
Yeah, actually, that does happen. Like, the actor who is in the Darth Vader suit is another actor. James Earl Jones just did the voice.
Yeah. So, I didn't know that until today. Today I learned that the pictures was of actually Anne Hathaway's father. Yeah. So,
she pretty much
she's getting ready to run,
and she reads a letter from her dad, and she's pretty much packing everything up to go to Colorado to climb
take her cat
named Fat Louie. And I'm like,
I love that cat.
I'm like, of course I'm like, even if she didn't know she was royalty, but the name of Fat Louie is a royal name.
Yeah. So, so Charlotte goes up to Joe because she at the party and at the ball, and she's like, "Aren't you supposed to be going to get the princess?" And he goes, "Well, Clarice said that Helen was going to bring her." And she's like, "Well, Helen just arrived and said that she was waiting for you." And he's like, "She's going to run."
And he's just like, he knew. I'm like, how did he know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he pretty much goes after her. And
yeah, and then Mia makes the decision that she was going to go to the ball. And it's raining and thundering and lightning and all of that.
And she's in the rain. Her car breaks down, and Joe's searching for her. He finds her and saying, "Are you going to run away?" He's like, "No, I'm going to the ball." I'm like, "Good."
She's like, "Just like this, I'm going to a ball."
Like, get in. And he's like, and pretty much she gets in, and she gives a speech.
She's soaked. So they're just like
surprised.
Yeah, and then her friends are there, or Lily and Jeremiah are there. Oh yeah, she also sent a pizza to Michael with M&M's spelling out sorry.
And I'm like, M&M's on it. I get it, he likes M&M's. I get it, but I'm like, in a pizza?
Yeah. So then he ends up, he goes, he's, runs inside to get dressed because that he's getting ready to go to the ball. And then her friends are there. Lily and Jeremiah are there. She's like, why aren't we dressed like her? We look like idiots.
I don't blame her.
So then Mia does make the decision right there. She's like, when I woke up this morning, I was Mia Thermopolis, but I choose to be forevermore. And she looks over at her grandma, and her grandma has like this look of hope, and she's like, Amelia Mignonette Thermopolis Romeldi, Princess of Genovia.
Yeah,
and everybody cheers.
And the person who wanted the throne was like,
Yeah, and then he like tries to steal a vase. Like he picks it up and like puts it in his jacket and walks away. And then you see Charlotte coming back with the vase and putting it back. And then Paulo shows up, to do her hair and everything. And then she comes out and she's wearing her dress is pretty in that
Yep.
scene too.
And
the Queen is dancing with the Prime Minister.
Then dance with Joe, and Mia dance with Michael, and they go out into the garden. And Joe says, he's like, he stole my move. I guess the garden's occupied.
Yeah, something like that. And so they're out there, and he's like, why me? And she's like, because you saw me when I was invisible. And then they kiss. She has her first foot-popping kiss.
And cute, which hits a circuit breaker, turns on the fountain, and the garden lights, and I'm like, okay, that's damn cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's a good scene right there.
And then there's like a little narration at the end where she is talking about how she was on her way to Genovia, but and that was, you see Genovia from the airplane, and that was about it.
And her cat's on a royal pillow
With a little crown on his head. And that's basically
Princess Diaries.
The Princess Diaries. That's how it ends. It's actually based on a book. I have not read any of the books, so I do plan to do that. So maybe if I do start reading the books, maybe I'll do like a comparison video on how the movies differ from the books.
And yeah.
So what do you give it, Mike?
10 out of 10. Maybe more like a 9 out of 10. It's not bad.
Yeah, I give it probably like a 9 out of 10 too. There are some parts that were kind of cheesy and corny.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's to be expected from early 2000s.
2001.
I said early 2000s. Doesn't. Anyways, this was directed by Gary Marshall. And I think this might have been one of the last movies that he directed before he passed away. I do believe he has passed away.
I think he directed the second one.
I'm getting ready to look that up now. Because I cannot remember. Because I know that he... this was actually... The Princess Diaries was actually Julie Andrews' first movie since, let me see. While The Princess Diaries commemorated the end of Andrews' semi-retirement from acting and returned to Disney films, her first since Mary Poppins in 1964. So she had not been in a Disney movie since 1964 is what it seems like. So Gary Marshall, here we go. Yeah, he died in 2016, and his last film that he produced was in 2016, which was Mother's Day. He also directed New Year's Eve, which we have actually reviewed. And yes, he did direct The Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement, which we will do at a later date. That's coming up.
All right.
So, let me go ahead and do next week's hint. Next week's hint is Cherry Blossoms. We're returning to anime for this one.
Yes.
I'm excited to do this one too, because this is one of my favorites.
Yes. And all right, like and subscribe, and please, we need more views. Come on, give us something. What do you want us to?
More views, more ideas. Just leave them down in the comments below if you have any ideas. Share this to your friends.
Or any advice on free 99.
On what?
Free 99, meaning we pretty much can't do anything else because we're broke as fuck, guys.
So, like Mike said, we need more subscribers. So, share this around to your friends if you think that they'll like it. Give us some ideas, what you would like to see us cover. We are planning on doing a taste test here soon. Probably within the next few months, we'll be doing a taste test. Some Japanese snacks and Japanese food. Because I have a Japanese place not far from where I live that I'm gonna take him to. So just like, subscribe, comment below, all that junk, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.